Good day, everyone. Welcome to the first video in this series of Bible Practical Answers. The question we're going to look at today is one of the questions that I asked myself concerning the Bible is, how do I know that the Bible I have today is the same as what was originally written down 2,000 years ago? Was there anything lost throughout the ages? In the translations, anything changed intentionally or unintentionally? What about theories saying that the early corruption in the church and corrupt leaders actually went and changed the Bible so that what we have today isn't what was originally written down? Interesting questions, and I got some interesting answers. So I'm going to have to cut right to the chase here. I got 10 minutes to cram a whole bunch of information in. So here we go for a wild ride through history. When historians in general are looking at a piece of history, a manuscript from history, religious or non-religious, doesn't matter, and they judge its reliability and its accuracy by several criteria. Two of the main things that they look at are the number of manuscripts and writings that they have referring to one subject, and the second thing they look at is how early the earliest manuscripts that we have are to the originals that were written, or the time gap there. The reason that that's important is because the smaller the time gap between the oldest manuscripts that we have compared to the originals, the lesser chance of errors in the historical document. And of course, the more manuscripts that we have that we can cross-reference and check throughout history on one subject, the better chances we are of finding any errors and inconsistencies. Okay, I'm going to throw up a chart here at you. And on this chart, I've got listed 5 major writings from history. 5 major figures from history that have changed history, and that pretty much everybody pretty much knows them and what they did, and historians consider them as genuine figures from history. We have on the first, we go along the top, we've got the first author, or the first subject, is Plato. The original writings of Plato were written and we've got a date of 427 to 347 BC. Following along to the right, the earliest copy that we have of Plato's work was a rewrite that was printed in about 900 AD. Go over to the next column that says approximate time span between the original and this copy, 1200 years. So we have 1200 years transpired between Plato's original writings and the earliest copy that we have of his writings. Numbers of copies in our possession today, we have about 7. In the far right, there's accuracy of copies, in which historians rate the percent accuracy. There hasn't been a percent accuracy in most of these, and that's mostly because the number of copies makes it very difficult to pronounce an accuracy figure. But you can see a 1200-year gap between our earliest document that we have about Plato's writings and when they were originally written. Yet, historians consider it still, Plato was a real figure from history, and would consider the documents that we have quite accurate. The next one, as we go down, we got Caesar. The writings of Caesar, written between 144 BC. The earliest copy that we have were written 900 to 950 AD, giving us a 1,000-year span between the originals and the earliest copies that we have that talk about Caesar and his exploits. The number of copies that we have talking about Caesar, just 10. Go on down to Aristotle. Aristotle's originals, 384 to 322 BC. Earliest copy that we have today was written in 1100, reprinted in 1100 AD, which gives us a 1400-year span between the originals and the earliest copies that we have of Aristotle's work. Number of copies, about 49, and again, makes it difficult for an accuracy rating. The next writing is Homer's Iliad. And again, Homer is very, very popular Roman historian, and a lot of the information that we get from the ancient Romans and what they did and how they lived and their conquerors we get from Homer's writings and Homer's records. Homer wrote down his records somewhere around 900 BC. The earliest copy that we have of Homer's work, 400 BC, which gives us a 500-year span between the originals and our earliest documents. Yet we consider it still quite accurate. The number of copies that we have, 643. That's quite a good number, and it allows us to give historians to compute an accuracy rating, and they compute it to be a 95% accuracy over the years in the translations and what was retained. That's pretty good. I also threw in one here just for talkers, I didn't get a lot of information on it, but Alexander the Great, being Alexander the Great is, who doesn't know about Alexander the Great? Famous figure from history. Alexander the Great died in 323 BC. Yet one of the earliest manuscripts that we have about his exploits was written in 30 AD by a writer known as Arian of Nicomedia, which gives us a time span of 300 years after his death. Yet again, historians consider it accurate. Now, looking at these 5 figures and writings from history, and so now we have to ask the question, well, how does the Bible, and in particular the New Testament Bible, and that's the one I am more interested in because that is really where Christianity comes in on the scene in Jesus. How does the New Testament Bible stand up against these other pillars of history? Here's the next chart. The New Testament, and those are documents that are written in Greek. That's what that means in brackets. We have all the New Testament written between 50 and 100 AD. The earliest copies that we have so far have been dated back to 130 AD, which gives us a time span between the originals and our earliest most copies of less of 100 years or less. But for the sake, we'll say 100 years. The number of copies, again, this is just in the Greek language that we have at our disposal these days, over 5,600 copies. Now, compare that to one of the best that we have in history, non-religious, of Homer's Iliad, being a 500-year gap and only 643. The Bible being less than a 100-year gap with over 5,600 copies of the original Greek. That allows historians to compute an accuracy rating for the New Testament Bible of 99.5%. Now, does that blow your mind or what? But wait, it just gets better. See, the New Testament, as it spread throughout the then known world, Europe, Asia, was translated into dozens of different languages. Of course, it went into Latin, it went into Ethiopian, and the various languages of the day throughout the then known world. We have more than 5,600. That's just the Greek. Taking all of these languages of the ancient manuscripts that we have today, pieces and manuscripts of the Bible, of the New Testament Bible, we have over 24,000 manuscripts and copies of the New Testament Bible. Like, wow. As I read one historian put it, compared to everything else in history, the New Testament, based on these facts and figures, is like a news flash on your TV. Now, while that sinks in, I just want to throw up one more chart here, just to give you, just for reference here. It talks about the most important manuscripts that we have of the Bible, and the earliest ones. We've got on the left, we've got the name of the manuscript, usually named after the person who discovered them. Then we have the contents. Some were whole books of the Bible, some were portions of the books of the Bible. The date that they were written, the MSS date, that's a manuscript date, and then the approximate time span between the original and that manuscript, and then the location of where that manuscript is today. So, we're not just making this up. These are actual manuscripts, and they can be, that are found in different libraries and museums between the United States and England and Europe. But questions that I had concerning what is the Bible that I have today the same as the Bible was originally written? Was it corrupted or changed intentionally or unintentionally through translations and reprintings over the years? That question can be put to bed with a great big no. It is absolutely the same. We can compare it to the original documents that we have and see that there is no change and that the accuracy is close to 100% greater than almost any other historical document from that time. Wow again. There's another thing that I was thinking about here, but the Constantine theory, made famous these days by like the Da Vinci Code and other books and videos. The theory that Constantine got rid of the early church fathers and changed and altered the Bible and the person of Jesus, stating that he wasn't worshipped as God until after they altered the Bible and destroyed all the old documents. Well, Constantine ruled around 350 AD, and we've already verified the accuracy of scriptures 250 years before Constantine. So the Constantine theory is dead. Bury it, man. I am right out of time. Please be looking for my next video within the next couple of weeks, in which I'm going to be closing the Bible, putting it on the shelf, and asking the question, is there any historical evidence for Jesus Christ outside of Bible and religious writings. Till then, take care.